Hey, everybody, welcome on back. It's the Twisted History Podcast, starring Jeff Vibberts to my immediate left today, which makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
St. Anne to my immediate right, and John Kelly behind the ones and twos. And this show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and it's a very apropos sponsor for this one in particular. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys, and behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like the right question, a safe space to cry, or even a small win, can change lives. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences. And their 12-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate mean they typically get it right the first time. If you aren't happy with your match, switch to a different therapist at any time from their tailored recs. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who've helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/twisted. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/twisted. Thank you, BetterHelp, for your continued support. And here we go. Twisted History of Whores. I don't know. I like the word whore. I've always used it. Oh, like whoring yourself out.
Yeah.
He's a whore, she's a whore, like that type of thing. So it's always been kind of benign to me. I don't know if the word whore is shocking to other people or extremely insulting universally. I'm using it just because I feel comfortable with it, but I don't mean anything by it. If somebody calls you a whore, and because you're the only woman in this room, how insulted are you?
I would be extremely insulted,
You
but if you
should be,
said
you're
I'm
not.
whoring you out, I don't know if I would necessarily take offense to that. Like
Yeah.
if you were like, you whore, fuck you, then I'd be like, oh, let's go. But if you're like, oh, I'm going to whore you out, go help him. Could you help him? Like, I don't think I would take that as an insult.
Conversely, I think that Vibs is a little bit of a whore sometimes, right? And it's
Not
not that bad.
Yeah, guys kind of wear it, as a badge of honor. But when you say man whore, that's
whore.
like
Yeah.
has a little bit of
What about
bite
hoe?
to it. Ho is
That's
worse
urban.
than whore, I'd say.
Yeah, that's got an
Really?
urban thing to it, too.
Yeah.
Sounds worse.
I'm not sure we're allowed to say ho. We have to call it the H word.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. Thesaurus.com has 88 synonyms for the word whore. And
That's a song, right?
Merriam-Webster, that funky bitch, what?
Isn't there a song? Oh, no, that's 88. What is that? Isn't that you have a song you always sing 88 something? Never mind.
Yeah, 88 lines about 44 women was a song by the Nails, if you guys want to check that out. It's very good. But anyway, Thesaurus.com, 88 words for whore. Merriam-Webster, they have 118. So it does have a lot of different meanings to a lot of different people. Sex worker, prostitute, escort, call girl or call boy. For the purpose of this podcast, we're probably going to just concentrate mainly on female whores, just because when we go back in history, it seemed the majority of the prostitutes and courtesans and this and whatever were all women. But we were just speaking beforehand, Johnny and I and Joe from the equipment room. I had read a stat that 63% of the sex workers in the world are women. I thought that would be much higher. I thought, because OnlyFans, I don't know if have you ever been on OnlyFans? I'm asking you honestly.
Oh, yeah, brother.
But have you paid for it?
No.
You just kind of snoop around every now and again. Like I'll have a guest on and they'll be like, oh, so you'll hit their OnlyFans thing. And if you look on the main page of OnlyFans, it's all women. So I was expecting that number to be closer to 80%, which is why I kind of didn't do a lot of dudes in this one.
Right. Yeah, 80% sounds more accurate.
Doesn't
60
it?
is.
Could you get an episode of doing guys?
Male horse?
Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo?
Yeah.
That Rob Schneider
Schneider.
classic?
Yeah.
I think there was 2 of those.
There was
I think
a
it's a
sequel.
part 2,
yeah,
right?
there was.
So, so this one's probably going to be mostly ladies. I'm looking through like the notes, and it's almost all ladies. And
there's famous women. There's no famous. Are there any famous male whores?
the people that I mentioned the people that we're going to mention in this podcast that are male are only mentioned because of their relationship with whores, like Victor Hugo, which we'll mention in a couple of minutes. But for the most part, we're going to be this one's for the ladies.
It's an absolute double standard, and I'm okay with it.
Streetwalker, hustler, hooker, hoe, tramp, floozy, woman of ill repute, working girl. Then we get a little more obscure.
Some of these are old, like you're 80.
Bawd, B-A-W-D, which is another word for a madam. Courtesan, which is, I wrote the definition as a whore with rich clients. But courtesan is a very popular word. You're going to hear it a lot today. Harlot, I like that. Tart, trollop, strumpet.
I like trollop.
Trollop's not bad.
I still like hoe.
Yeah. Concubine, I'm a little bit on the fence about. I'll tell you why once we get to Islam and their feelings about whores. Then there's one, hetera, which is a term for an elite female companion in ancient Greece, so somewhere between a courtesan and a mistress. By the way, the term mistress was originally used as the neutral feminine counterpart to master, not mister, to master.
Yeah, that you would say the mistress of the house.
Yeah, and referring to those of higher social status. It meant the woman married the owner or renter of the house. Then there's wench, which I love wench. Then there's one, meretrix, the Latin term for a registered prostitute in ancient Rome. And we'll get to that too, about how, these people were registered prostitutes that were pulling in a lot of money for a lot of different people, including a bishop, the Bishop of Winchester. And that's where I get my favorite whore nickname. And that's calling somebody a Winchester goose. I've never heard of that.
Doesn't sound very insulting. It sounds kind of delicious.
It's a medieval English term.
Sounds like a menu item.
Right, yeah.
The Winchester goose. Or maybe like a...
With the side of fig.
Like a type of rifle. Oh, you're going for them? You better get the Winchester goose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get dive bomb all over that.
Medieval English term for sex workers under the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Winchester. So imagine banging or at least overseeing so many whores that they named the term after you. And this is me saying I wasn't around in the 1600s when whatever Bishop of Winchester was in charge. So I don't know if he was tasting the goods, but he was overseeing a tremendous amount of whores in Winchester, so much so that they were called Winchester geese. And the reason they were called geese was two reasons. Their white breasts, they used to come out of their bustiers and whatnot, which I find to be extremely hot, right?
Like in the movie The Patriot, I feel like they're wearing those, they got their cleavage pushed up, the boobs, and they're very pale. I was very into that.
Like breasted geese.
Yes.
And also from the honking noises they made during sex.
Oh, okay.
So big white breasts.
I wonder if they were told to do that.
I don't know. I mean,
Honk
they say
for me,
screeching
baby.
or honking. I don't know. Through the bishop's licensing of brothels, he was able to collect significant revenue from prostitution, but his geese were never given any respect by the church, so much so they couldn't be buried in a regular cemetery because their lifestyle was not considered to be in union with the church. So in Winchester, and again, I don't know exactly where it was in relation to other towns in England, there was a proper cemetery which was filled with good, God-fearing, law-abiding guys who banged prostitutes, but the prostitutes in which they banged weren't able to be buried next to them.
Yeah.
It's a little hypocritical, isn't it?
Sad.
Yeah. The last thing I'm going to say about Winchester geese is that there was a phrase back then that I was bitten by a Winchester goose, which was just another word for contracting a venereal disease. So if you say, hey, I got a little case of the crotch crickets, somebody would be like, oh, you got bit by a Winchester goose. I like that too. So he has whores named after him, and then he's got a venereal disease named after him.
But there's a code. I don't think, kind of like drug dealers don't do their drug.
Yeah.
I bet
Don't
he
get
didn't
high
touch
on
the
your
goods
own supply.
or the
It's
geese.
one of the 10 crack commandments.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought I'd bring that up, give me some street cred. And if that's not enough street cred for you guys from me, I was listening to $1 million worth of Game.
Ah.
I am not their target audience.
Your street cred just went way up.
I know.
Yeah.
I had to do a boxing tournament with Gillian Wallow down in Delaware. I was ringside with those guys doing color. No pun intended. And before I went to do it, I wanted to learn what those guys were all about outside of the handful of times that we had met. And I like Gillian Wallow quite a bit, or I like them a lot. So I listened to, on the drive down to Delaware, I listened to 2 full episodes of $1 Million worth of Game for the first time. Broke my cherry, as it were. And at one point, either Gilly or Wallow had said something about a guy and said, he was wild for a long time, but, he's calmed down ever since he's hot in Virginia. And I didn't know what the fuck that meant.
That was so funny.
I didn't know what that meant.
What does it mean?
So I'm sitting there listening to this, fascinated by what is since this guy got hot in Virginia, like I'm what did he do?
Like the cops are on him.
No.
He's got a little heat.
That's what I'm thinking first. Or he went on a fucking gambling run in Virginia. Or he just was plowing through a lot of girls in Virginia and decided to slow down. Well, hot in Virginia, according to $1 Million Worth of Game, or at least at the time I was listening to him, meant he contracted HIV.
Oh.
Hot in Virginia. And I was like, so bitten by a Winchester goose or getting a little hot in Virginia, you could come back from a Winchester goose bite with just a little bit of antibiotics, but unless you're Magic Johnson, hot in Virginia is a fucking bad thing to be. So
where does that come from? Do you know?
I don't know. I think they just wanted to, I don't know if it's, listen, I don't have any, cultural perspective
I'll ask
on
Gilly.
this.
I'll find out.
Yeah,
I'll ask Gilly where he
I'm
is.
fascinated with where that came from.
I want to have Wallow on the food show. On You Got to Try This. Because Wallow, for a while there, was doing like these prison recipes where he was basically making like a tuna melt in a toilet or something. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Well, Wallow and Gilly have a steak and cheese company,
like
and they're delicious. They're incredible.
But he makes noodles, like, honestly.
I bet his Pruno's awesome.
His Pruno, the toilet wine, yeah. But he has, I think right after McConaughey had put out his tuna salad, Wallow had put out his too. And watching him cut vegetables with a fucking butter knife was just eye-opening. So
I bet they taste very different.
Yeah, I think probably. Yeah, I think everything about Wallow and Matthew McConaughey are probably very different. But the widely accepted definition of the word whore is simply a prostitute or sexually promiscuous woman. So for people who think that I'm trying to be mean, just know that's the definition that I'm abiding by. It's synonymous to me. It can be used as an offensive and disparaging term, but in the case of this podcast, we're just calling spades a spade. All right?
Did Sopranos bring the word hooer back?
I grew up with the word hooer, like growing up in the south part of Brooklyn. When I say South Brooklyn, just because it was primarily Italian, I heard hooer more often than I heard slut, whore, prostitute, hooker. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, I thought hooer was a contraction of the word hooker. Like they just took out the K. So it was like hooer. Like, you know what I mean? But it's hooer. She's a hooer. Yeah, like that whole thing.
Yeah. We were talking about word is whore offensive. Slut. That's a bad one. That one has a lot of sting to it.
Yeah.
Whore, I'm like, whatever.
In our family, we always had the debate. I remember one night there was a debate between, the uncles and stuff.
Sure.
And they're going back and forth. It's whore, going back. And then all of a sudden, the oldest of all the uncles walks in. What does it matter?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, exactly. Different strokes. Like if I was to call up my brother Terrence, I have a brother who's a year and a half older than me. And, obviously we grew up together. Probably my brother Neil, who's 8 years younger than me. If I was to call up either of them and ask them what is their favorite term for a prostitute, I would think both of them would say hooer.
Hooer.
And mine is...
She was a hooer.
She was a fucking hooer.
What does it matter?
Tony. Yeah.
My father used to say, look at the hookers all over.
Yeah.
Look at all the hookers.
Yeah. So prostitution is often called the oldest profession. It's just untrue. People have been paying other people to hunt and farm way before they started paying for sex. So perhaps we should put a caveat on it and call it the oldest profession that almost always involves naked tits. But I will say that reading more into this, what people, anthropologists, historians, now seem to be agreed upon as the oldest profession for people who are keeping score at home, it's any kind of bastardization of a physician. So people were hunting and gathering for themselves primarily. It wasn't like you were paying somebody to go out and get you a brontosaurus or anything, and I know that's ignorant to say. But once somebody had something that could cure another person, be it a shaman, a fucking witch doctor, some sort of prehistoric medicine or something like that, people were willing to trade goods for that.
I would have guessed babysitting.
Yeah,
like
maybe
in order for them to go out and hunt, someone's got to watch the
kids.
Luggage.
Yeah. Luggage.
You know what I mean? Like you got to watch their shit, right? You got.
I think the way that's traditionally seen is you get home drunkenly, give a girl a couple of 20s and tell her to get back to her house, which is sort of the same thing you do with whores. I think more so trying to pay somebody to fix a broken leg, or you'd pay them more for that than you would for a brontosaurus burger. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. The first recorded whore dates back to Sumerian records from 2400 BC. That's a long time ago. And a temple brothel in the city of Uruk. U-R-U-K. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I don't care.
Sounds like something from Lord of the Rings.
Urukai?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what you guys are fucking crazy nerds. Because I looked up Uruk to try and figure out how it's pronounced. I've done it with a couple of words here too. And they said that's where Peter Jackson got Urukai from. Uruk or whatever the fuck you want to call it, is somewhere in modern day Iraq. And that was the first recorded brothel. But there are references to brothels in any ancient culture, including what are the big ones? Ancient Greece, ancient Rome, the Ottoman Empire, early kingdoms of the Aztecs and Incas. Just about any culture that you can read about in a history book and beyond had, places, centralized places where you could pay for sex. In Islam, which we talked about, prostitution is considered a sin. However, sexual slavery via concubinage, so having concubines, was not considered prostitution and was very common during the Arab slave trade from the Middle Ages up until the 20th century, which is one of those embarrassing, it's a very apparent end around.
It's a good loophole. Love a loophole.
Yeah, like that. But I think this is a bad one because I think they're saying you can't have prostitutes, but you can keep sex slaves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like concubinage.
So they're not even getting paid anything. They're just you're sex slave.
And perhaps they are. Like you're taking care of them, getting them 3 hots in a cot.
Right.
And keeping them in a harem. Like that's the idea behind it. If it's like one of these old school sheiks with the big turban and you see like these harems, every time you watch it in like Conan, there's always like a big feather fan waving somewhere in it. And they're wearing I used to masturbate viciously to some of those things when I was a kid. Not anymore because I'm so happily married. But it's one of those things. I don't think the average concubine back in, where, I don't know, during the Arab slave trade, I doubt there was a lot of feathered fans around. You know what I mean? And by the way, these end arounds, I think the one that you're saying that you like a good end around, I believe Japan, you're not allowed pay. Vaginal prostitution is not allowed, but everything else is on the board.
They blur it out.
Yes, they do. They blur out genitals. But I think getting jerked off or blown or... By the way, this isn't very kid-friendly, this one. It's not. It is what it is. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think
they read the title and they're like, all right.
Yeah. But in Japan, I think it's one of those things where even though vaginal prostitution is not allowed, you can still get... We'll take blown. You can be filleted. But what you have to do is you can't exchange money with the hooker.
That's
you have
not
to
a
go
happy ending.
across the street.
You got a middleman?
And buy, let's say a Wendy is, 10,000 yen, right? You have to go across the street to a store and say, can I get that wooden block, that carved wooden block? How much is that? Oh, it happens to be 10,000 yen. Mm-hmm. You take that block and you bring it across the street and you give it to the girl. And that's how they go. And the thing is, there's such a percentage of voting people would be the thing that we can kind of see here. Like the elderly in Japan are a very powerful pack. So they just don't want to see prostitution. So they do this bullshit little end around, which I'd be willing to do. If I was in the market for a whore in Japan.
So glad we cleared that up. I'm so happy we're on the same page.
I'd be willing to go across the street and buy a tchotchke and then give it to the girl. Hey, here's my little carved frog. Get on it. I would much rather do that than keep some girl as some sort of sex slave.
So it meant does that kind of coincide with the waving?
Oh no, the Kaneko Neku, whatever the hell it was. I don't know.
It's just the left hand. It's just like a scrub.
There's waving hands involved, but I don't think it has anything to do with.
It also, I don't know, makes you feel less dirty than handing them cash.
I think so.
Here's a little wooden.
I'm not guilty.
Frog.
I don't have anything to confess if I give you a toy.
Yeah. I'm not laying in sin. This is.
It's just a little whittled off.
I just gave you a gift.
It's so fucking apparent though.
Right.
I've been to the red light district in Germany, outside of Frankfurt. We drove through it, and it looked kind of nice, and it's all legal and government regulated and whatnot. And we did the Twisted History of Prostitution back in 2021, and we spoke about some of those huge government-run. I believe it was called the Pasha. The Pasha was like that 30-floor building that's just, as you get higher and higher, the girls get more and more expensive. You know what I mean? And those girls were given 3 hots and a cot and all that kind of stuff, and they
But
got
that
a pretty good
explained the
percentage.
magazine Penthouse?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe. There were multiple mentions of whores in the Bible, including some bitch named Tamar who seduced Judah. Then there was one whose name was Gomer in the book of Hosea.
That's not very sexy.
Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, Gomer. Yeah. Rahab was a prostitute from Jericho during the Israelite conquest of Canaan and an ancestor of Jesus through her descendant Boaz.
How do we end up with like Tracy and
I don't know. And most
and
famously,
all these
Mary
names that
Magdalene.
are synonymous with which
Yeah.
aren't
I don't
true,
know.
but
Yeah.
you know.
And Mary Magdalene, who Bible historians are now saying wasn't necessarily a hooker, but just a sinner. It seems like it's common knowledge that Mary Magdalene was not the prostitute that she was made out to be when I was growing up. When I was growing up in an Irish Catholic family, and I grew up going to church every week and all that kind of stuff, I went to a Catholic university, all that shit. So I've been Catholic school my whole life. And we were always told that Mary Magdalene was a woman of sin, and whenever you talked about it, people just described her as a whore, and now that's not necessarily the definition for her. So good for Mary Magdalene, I guess. Nobody gives a shit. Staying with religion, there are actually two patron saints of whores. The first one was a surprise because it's St. Nicholas, the same guy where we get Santa Claus from. So before he got fat and trained reindeer to fly, he once secretly provided a dowry for 3 impoverished sisters to save them from a life of prostitution. Somebody else had to have made this correction, but if he saved 3 sisters from being whores, and another word for whores is hoe, and there was 3 sisters, it was ho, ho, ho. That has nothing to do with why Santa says ho, ho, ho.
I disagree. I think it has
think
everything to do with it.
if somebody doesn't put an E at the end of ho, ho, ho every time and think about this podcast, then I failed you. Honestly.
Christmas has changed forever.
Yes, it does.
You just ruined Christmas.
Yeah. Or even if somebody says, Santa's coming, oh, I bet he is. Like that type of thing.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so
Saint Nick.
Yeah, so Saint Nick swinging that dick. And again, this isn't one of those things where Saint Nicholas was said to have been with whores, but it's just one of those ones where he was basically saving them from a life of prostitution. That's why he's one of the patron saints. It's a similar story to the other one. There's another patron saint of prostitutes, and his name, he was a monk. His name was Saint Vitalis of Gaza. Lived around 625 AD.
Is Vitalis? It sounds like an erection medicine. Is that
Vitalis?
Am I making that up?
Vitalis was actually a hair tonic.
No, you're thinking of Cialis, the one that's like for flare-ups.
Yeah.
I don't know what the flare-ups are,
A
right?
bottle of Cialis with the
Is it
label
Cialis
ripped
for hard-ons?
off.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
hard-ons.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
brother.
Vitalis used to be one of those things
played.
that, like the barbers used to sort of like rubbing your head afterwards.
Like a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, I used to love that. He would be on like Homer. Yeah.
It looks
Fucking-
so soothing.
Yeah.
When he's
Gossamer,
doing his,
right?
Yeah.
Gossamer. No, and he also does it with Elmer Fudd on his big bald head, where he actually gets on him with his feet and stuff
Yep.
like that. It's very, very good. Yeah, the Gossamer one's
awesome.
good too. Yeah, monsters make the most interesting people. Yeah, we're
Lead
going off.
the most interesting lives.
Yeah. So what Saint Vitalis of Gaza did was he paid prostitutes. He was a day worker, so he would essentially hang out in the parking lot of Home Depot in 625 AD and then go and do some day laboring. He lived in like a very modest shack. So what he would do with his wages, he spend all his money on rescuing prostitutes for the night. He'd be like, all right, I'm going to rent her out for the night, take her back to his shack, and they would just pray all night. And that way she didn't have to go out and sully her body.
The line between saint and simp is a fine, fine line.
Right. But it was enough to get him to be the patron saint.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he died, many of the women that he took off the streets one night at a time were his pallbearers. So we have a saint dying, and his casket or whatever it was carried by town whores. It's kind of cool. And we have another example of that a little bit later on. But yeah, just to have a bunch of prostitutes around carrying candles and lanterns and perhaps his body. I don't know what the funeral procession was back in 625. I actually just made up that Home Depot existed back then. But anyway, they were involved. So I will tell you one other thing. I put a little caveat at the beginning of this about how whore is not a really abrasive, like the word cunt. Like it doesn't have that abrasion for me. But I will tell you, I'll try, and we'll all try to be a little bit careful not using that word. We'll try to distinguish those who chose this lifestyle for a bunch of reasons. I'll give you some background on some more famous hookers, and you'll see they basically had no choice. Like you talk about what do every porn star have in common, and it's daddy issues, right? I've never met a girl who does porn that had like a dad that, like Bridget was homesick today, and before we left, I sliced up a pear and I gave her a baguette with a little bit of brie, prosciutto, and fig jam, and a hot cup of tea, and one of those like refrigerated head wraps for her before I left. The majority of women who you see taking loads on movies and whatnot did not have that benefit. Unfortunately, and that's a fucking sin, and that's put on the dad. Like trying to keep her off the pole is a real fucking thing. But I will tell you, I will try to distinguish between those women who chose the lifestyle and those who are forced into it. Because that, similar to the concubinage that we just spoke about, is probably top 10 affronts to humanity in history. Having somebody... And I'm going to use two examples and these examples I've used before, but I think they're worth mentioning again, right? Like I don't want to travel down a road where I'm insinuating victims of human trafficking or non-consensual sex are sluts or whores. These girls are instead victims, and I'll talk about two of those groups right now. The first is comfort women from World War II. Girls forced into sexual slavery by the Imperial Japanese Armed Forces in occupied countries and territories before and during World War II. This was bad. Japanese troops forced hundreds of thousands of women. This is where the Japanese were worse than the Germans, and I'm going to go to the Germans right after this. But they did this on a much larger scale. They forced hundreds of thousands of women from Australia, Burma, China, the Netherlands, the Philippines, Japan, Korea, Indonesia, East Timor, New Guinea, and other countries into sexual enslavement for Japanese soldiers. However, the majority of those women, just so you know, were from Korea and China. That's where a lot of these comfort women came from. In many cases, women were lured by false job openings for nurses and factory workers, and a significant percentage of comfort women were minors, below the age of 14. Women and girls were stripped of their agency and dehumanized as female ammunition. I put that in quotes. They were also called public toilets. I put that in quotes.
That's rough.
They were also listed on some things as military supplies. You're fucking people. And that's where I'm talking. These girls don't deserve the moniker of whores, because imagine somebody saying in official paper that you're female ammunition, military supplies, or God forbid somebody calls you a public toilet. I can't think of a worse name to call a woman.
Right. Call me a slut all you want. Don't call me a public toilet.
But have you ever seen a girl walk by and maybe you wanted to comment inappropriately on her promiscuity? So you do call some of those names that we've used so far. I've never seen somebody walk by and someone go, yeah, girl, she's a human toilet. Oh, a public toilet.
Awesome.
That's a tough one. So that's why I put that out there. In order to help injured Japanese soldiers receive treatment, some of them were forced to donate blood. They were using them for parts.
Bags.
Yeah,
just
blood
like
bags.
Mad Max.
Yeah. They all experienced severe and brutal physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. They were repeatedly beaten and forced to perform sexual services with 10 men on normal days and up to 40 men on days after combat. So when these guys would come back from the war, it's a tough fucking night for these ladies. Estimates from Japanese historians say that there were anywhere from 20,000 to 200,000 comfort women. Japanese historians had said 20,000 on the low end to 200,000 on the high end. But if there's one thing I know from doing this podcast is that Japanese historians cannot be trusted. It's just...
Yeah, they're going to lowball that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Less biased sources put that number at over 400,000. And I say unbiased because after the war, the Japanese government denied the existence of comfort women, refusing to provide an apology or any kind of restitution. After numerous demands for an apology and the revelation of official records showing the Japanese government's culpability, the government began to offer an official apology and compensation in the 1990s.
Wow.
Right? World War II did not happen, even if you don't have a grasp on history. Know that World War II happened way before 1990. So most of the surviving victims who were being essentially raped 40 times a night on a bad night, they weren't alive to see any of this. And that's a fucking shame. And that's why you'll see, even spread out amongst the United States in primarily Asian communities, you'll see memorials and statues to comfort women. There are 2 within driving distance from where Annie and I live in Ridgewood, New Jersey, including one in Palisades Park. Palisades Park is very close to like Fort Lee and stuff like that, so it has a huge Asian, thing. Don't say it.
Fort Lee, last stop on the bus route. Is that
yes,
is
that's
that
right.
Yeah. I know the New Jersey Transit bus route.
Yeah.
You can't call them whores.
I would never.
No, I know. I know.
Yeah.
Not you. I'm saying in the grand scheme of things, they're definitely not whores.
But I'm sure they went back into society and were called whores and looked at negatively, even though they had no choice.
When the war ended, they were considered fucking the lowest of the low.
Which is awful.
And they were shanghaied. I mean, that's the definition of shanghaiing somebody.
Yeah.
You get them on the fucking boat, and then you go out to sea, and what am I doing? Where's the fucking hot tub? Hot tub, here's a fucking mop. Go swab the poop deck, if that exists anymore. What were you about to say, Johnny? Oh, okay. And even though I mentioned I would concentrate primarily on females in this pod, I have to mention Walter Dempster Jr. He was better known as Walterina Markova, a Filipino gay man who was forced as a comfort gay for the Imperial Japanese Army during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines in World War II. Walter, or Walterina, whichever one you prefer, was part of a traveling group of 6 cross-dressing performers that was arrested by Japanese soldiers and taken to a camp where for several years he and his companions and other comfort gays were put to forced labor and abused sexually by Japanese soldiers.
That is so wrong.
That's one of the differences, though, between, and we'll get to it with Nazi Germany, between the Japanese and the Germans. The Japanese gave their potentially gay soldiers a port in the storm too. Like they provided for them,
right.
Even though it's still fucking wrong. I mean, this guy, if you see pictures of Walter Dempster Jr., the guy was awesome. And he was just, Tu Wong Fu, like type of, traveling cross-dressing RuPaul type shit. And he was made like a fucking sex slave.
Meanwhile, you got like Alan Turing or whatever, who's like a hero for the British, who's gay, and they chemically castrate him.
Yeah. By the way, so this guy, listen, having this guy get essentially kidnapped and forced to be a comfort gay for the Japanese Imperial Army during World War II is very frustrating to hear and makes me angry to know that it happened. But for some reason, this kills me even more. He survived the war, lived until 2005, and at the age of 81, he was hit by a cyclist and killed. I hate the fact, and I don't know all the details around his death, and I'm not going to look it up, but this guy went through the shit. He was a comfort gay in World War II. And somewhere along the line, after going through all that and maybe getting his head right and all that kind of stuff, some dude in tight bike shorts and a fucking weird helmet and stuff like that probably wiped him out on the side of Route 17. And that fucking infuriates me too.
Can I alleviate some of that infuriating anger? He got to see Shrek 1 and Shrek 2, so that's pretty awesome.
He got to see both Shreks.
That's pretty awesome.
I was going to say, you look him up.
You're always glass half full.
He looks like the happiest guy in the world.
Where is Shrek from? He from? Do you know that clip from Fresno?
No.
KBS.
My swamp.
No, he's like from Fresno, California. Anyway.
Is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. John's so fucking obscure. I was
going to say a left turn. That makes me think of Chris Kyle. He survived 4 tours. Right? Overseas as a sniper, and then comes home and he's killed by like a deranged,
at a gun show, right?
No, he was like at a gun range with like
he took him.
He
brought him with him,
a mentally ill, former veteran that
he was trying to help him.
Yeah, he was trying to help him.
Yep.
It's crazy,
but like that is crazy to survive that and come home to the United States.
Well, it's like the kid Stephen who was missing and abducted for years, and it wasn't until his abductor abducted another kid that he saw an opportunity to get out when he escaped with this kid because he didn't want it to happen to the other kid. He was killed by a hit-and-run driver. I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I just have I have a soft spot, not a soft spot, a hard spot for cyclists. I don't want to share the road with them anymore.
I'm right there with you. As a runner, I'm against cyclists.
And listen, if you're a cyclist,
once and it's never left him.
You think we'd get along, but we don't. No.
If you live outside of a city, you might be like, oh, don't be so mean to cyclists. Try walking around fucking New York City. City bikes and delivery guys in city.
It's crazier than ever because of e-bikes. They're quiet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they sneak up on you.
Yeah.
And
they really do.
Yeah.
I get it, but it has added like a crazy element to every single city.
And you look at a place like Germany now that just installed public bike washing stations. You put your bike in, you throw in a couple of fucking Deutschmarks or whatever the hell it is, euros, and it sends it right through. Your bike comes out fucking washed and clean because it's a real, Europe is a real biking type community, and it's good for the environment. I get all that shit, but they're just the fucking most annoying bitches.
There's a Markova movie?
I don't know it.
I don't know. I just Googled it and I was looking
it says
up.
comfort
In the land of macho dancers, he's the most dangerous thing of all.
Oh, wow.
Himself.
Yeah.
But look at him. He's like the happiest guy ever.
No, I know, and that's what I mean. I feel for Walterina.
But look, see his movie. It says Markova.
Yeah, it just seems like a nice
I don't know why
dude.
I've never thought of this. Have you ever thought about running for office? I feel like you could run on that. Be like, no more bikes.
Yes. Yes, I am looking. I have a lot of whores in my past. The second example of terrible practice of coercing wartime prostitutes would stay in World War II with Nazi Germany's Joy Division. And I know Joy Division is something I had mentioned before because I enjoy the music of Joy Division. It was an old school band that eventually became New Order once the lead singer had killed himself. Oh. And so I've had Joy Division T-shirts growing up. I never knew.
Is that where they got their name?
That's where they got the fucking name from, which stinks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was, I don't know if it made sense at the time. It's like Kraftwerk and all that kind of shit.
Or they thought they were being helpful. Bring this to life.
Maybe bring to life. But either way, during World War II, the Nazis had something called Lager bordels, or concentrate camp brothels, that were filled with Jewish and non-Jewish female prisoners, primarily in their 20s, who were used as prostitutes for the German soldiers working in and around the camps, as well as some privileged prisoners. These non-Jewish women were in the camps after being imprisoned for antisocial behavior. So on top of them just taking good-looking Jews in their 20s and forcing them into prostitution, if you weren't a Jew, but you were put in a concentration camp for stuff like prostitution, any kind of lewd behavior, they would then use you as a prostitute once you got to camp. Again, tremendous amount of hypocrisy there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's women who had crimes defined under Hitler included prostitutes, suspected political ties, or simply female Germans who had relationships with Jews. On average, they had sex with roughly 6 to 8 men every night and on Sunday afternoons. So Sundays, they would get all their work done in the afternoon. However, some women would receive up to 10 men in 2 hours. It's a lot. SS Chief Heinrich Himmler, ever heard of him? He was the second most powerful man in the Third Reich. He established the Reich's first concentration camp at Dachau and ordered brothels to be set up in concentration camps across Nazi-occupied Europe to increase productivity and to prevent homosexuality from breaking out among their ranks, as if it was like a case of the mumps. Listen, you're going to try and set up concentration camps. I can't imagine the logistics. Annie's doing stuff with a commercial real estate company, and she's going through it with like just trying to get people to pay for their fucking parking spots. Like there's all these little tiny things that go into opening up businesses. Mm-hmm. So imagine trying to open up a fucking concentration camp, much less 20 of them, and then also being like, oh, and we're going to have a brothel there too, and we're going to have to fill it with essential political prisoners and Jewish women. If the Germans were thought to be gay, sometimes they were forced to have sex with these female prostitutes and prove that they were healed. Prisoners who weren't Jewish but jailed as homosexuals were called pink triangle prisoners and would also be given the opportunity to sleep with a prostitute in order to get their freedom. So it was a way that you could, bang the gay away. So
is that where like the kind of gay iconic logo pink triangle
Pink triangle.
comes from?
Yeah, I believe that's a harkens back to this.
Was it before the
After.
Holocaust, or they just
Yeah,
after that? We're going to adopt this and bring
yeah,
it
I
into
think
our...
that was the Scarlet Letter for gay prisoners, and gay concentration camp guys were treated the worst, from what I understood. So I think it was like a call back to that time for that symbol. So these lager bordels were affectionately also known as dollhouses, and the women within were called the Joy Division. It's estimated, and again, remember we were talking about with Japan that the number looks like it was closer to 400,000. Mm-hmm. This was 34,000 female inmates were forced into sexual slavery during the Third Reich. 34,000 it's all bad, but I'm just trying to use that scope of why I said earlier I felt like the Japanese really out-scumbagged the Nazis in this respect. So 400,000 versus 34. Oh, yeah, so Annie just looked it up. The pink triangle originated as the Nazi thing that we were just talking about.
So it was kind of like they 8-miled them. Like, if you're going to use that against us, we're going to take it as our own. So you can't use it against us.
So they have about 34,000 female inmates forced into sexual slavery, Jewish and otherwise. And
I bet not a lot of people know that.
I didn't know where it came from. Yeah.
Honestly, like I bet they really just don't know that.
Because if it was a pink swastika, people would know, right? And it could have just as easily have been, there's all this hullabaloo around the SS's because Secret Service or something also has a similar lightning strike to the SS type.
I've heard people ask it about Chevelles.
Oh, okay, Chevelle. Oh,
like the Super Sport?
Chevy Super Sports. Yeah. Every good Nazi story has a crooked doctor, and the story of Nazi dollhouses is no different. So I'll tell you about Siegfried Schwelle. He was put in charge by Himmler to run the brothels. Here was his blueprint. Staff had to ensure female prisoners were clean, so the women were to be sterilized. Prostitutes were regularly tested for sexually transmitted diseases to prevent outbreaks at the camps. Only the missionary position could be used. I'm out. SS officers so even when you were going to go use one of these women, SS officers would watch through spy holes to make sure the women don't spend more than 15 minutes with each prisoner. It's a lot. When possible, they tried to impose strict race laws, insisting that only German men could visit German women and that Slavic men could only meet with Slavic women. And as I mentioned before, some prisoners accused of homosexuality could bang their way out of the camps, but Jews and Russian prisoners were forbidden to do that. Since pregnancy was an unintended consequence of prostitution and they didn't want to breed more Jews inadvertently, forced abortions were mandatory. So those were some of the ground rules for being a Joy Division in Nazi Germany. The last Nazi concentration camp brothel was closed in 1945. And as a happy ending, which isn't a pun, nearly all the sex workers survived until the camps were liberated. But none received recognition from the German state as victims of sex slavery or compensation for their ordeal. Sex slavery has only been recognized as a war crime under international law since 2002. And though many survived the war, as I said, few, if any, were alive by the time it was recognized.
I think we spoke about this once before.
100%.
We really felt that was when the internet kicked in.
Maybe.
And that's when it became worldwide.
It was easy to pass through this stuff.
Right. Yeah. And then one of the cool stories was, do you remember the story of one of the sex workers who kept her shoes on?
Yeah.
Her heel?
Yeah.
Do you remember that story?
Yeah, so that was the story. She was a dancer. She was a ballerina, and her troupe was captured by the Nazis, and they were being put into the concentration camps. And she decided to flirt with a couple of the guards, so she was able to keep her high heels on when they went on to do the inspection of her body. And then she took off her high heels, and in like a Schwarzenegger's movie type thing, I think she stabbed the guy in the eye with her high heels, and then a bunch of the girls they were all killed. But at least she was known as somebody who was a little bit more of a revolutionary.
I wish I could remember her name.
I don't know what you have to do for us to fucking remember your name. Like, I can't believe I can name all the Kardashian sisters, but I can't name this fucking hero.
I'm proud to say I cannot.
Okay. So getting back to my original term, comfort houses and joy divisions are two perfect examples of what I would avoid using the term whore around, because the term implies that there was some consent by the person doing the whoring, and in those two examples, that wasn't the case. Let's find some examples from history of some good old-fashioned whores.
Francesca Mann.
Francesca Mann.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yes.
Write that down with Tsutomu Yamaguchi, all these people that we should remember. Yeah. Let's start small.
What a stud, too.
Yeah.
Good for her.
26 years old.
Oof. So let's start small. In the early 1800s, there was a woman named Teresa Berkeley. She died in 1836. So she was a 19th century English dominatrix who ran a brothel in London's West End. What made her brothel special was that it specialized in flagellation, the whipping and humiliation of their Johns. She was a master of the art of inflicting pain. Again, she died in 1836, so this is early 1800s.
She's a trailblazer.
Yeah, she is. It shows she was a master at the art of inflicting pain for pleasure and was successful because she practiced absolute privacy to protect her clientele. So tight lips when you crack whips is what I wrote there. I think that's kind of nice.
That's great.
Thanks.
There's
She used
just
a
another
wide
pun.
variety of torture instruments, including a cat o' nine tails. For people who don't know what that is, it's a whip that has 9 different things at the end of it. Sometimes it would be a ball bearing tied to the end of each whip head. So it was a cat o' nine tails, and it just ripped the skin off. Leather straps, holly brushes, which are what it sounds like. The holly tree has like stick thorns, so they would beat you with holly brushes. Green nettles. Nettles is like stinging nettles. Nettles also have these fine little thorns in them. And like a hook and pulley system. And just like I had said, that if you're a Winchester goose, it's kind of cool to have something named after you. She had a BDSM apparatus named after her called the Berkeley Horse. And I put a picture of it in there. It's like an A-frame where a guy... You know those massage tables where you put your face in the hole?
Yes, that's a perfect.
So you put your
perfect
face in that
example,
hole, and then in the inside of the A-frame, a prostitute would sit naked, play with herself, and then there's that milking hole, like a milking station where you kind of put your cock through. She would kind of play with your cock while the dominatrix was behind him, whipping the shit out of him. So you're getting turned on by... Look... This is what it said. A man upon it, quite naked. A woman is sitting... This is the historical description. A woman is sitting in a chair exactly under it with her bosom, belly, and pubic hair exposed while she is manualizing his embolon, his dick, whilst Mrs. Berkeley
Thanks for that.
is birching his posteriors, meaning she's whipping his ass with a bunch of stuff.
We've never called it that.
No, we should. In one
yeah.
surviving letter, a customer hearing about the Berkeley horse proffered Teresa Berkeley this pricing for her services. Again, this is a quote, so I'll do it in an English accent.
Oh, no.
£1 for the first blood drawn. £2 if the blood runs down to my heels. £3 if my heels are bathed in blood. And £4 if the blood reaches the floor. And £5 if you succeed in making me lose consciousness.
Why don't you just choke him out and then just cut him somewhere and just take the cash?
I guess, but no, I think he wants it from that constant pounding. I mention this to make sure that we're all well aware how people have been freaky for fucking centuries.
Paying to be freaked on.
And as soon as I say freaky for centuries, I think right away to that fucking Roman emperor. I think it was
Tiberius,
who used to have the little fishes, the kids
swimming around.
Yeah, nipping at his balls and stuff.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. And here's a tale. I'm going to move on. Here's a tale how one girl wasn't forced into prostitution, but life threw her so many lemons that the only way to make lemonade, I think, was to sell her ass, and her name was Libby Thompson. She was born in Texas in 1855. So again, we're talking, nearly 200 years ago. Her family lost its fortune during the Civil War, and in 1864, Comanche raided what was left of her family's farm and took her captive. She remained a Comanche captive until 1867, when her parents found enough money to pay for her ransom for her release. But from that point forward, she was considered a marked woman. Even though she was only 13, many people assumed that she had sexually submitted to the Indians during her captivity, so Libby found herself shunned and ostracized from society. She soon took up with an older man who did not care about her past, but her dad found the idea of an older man taking advantage of his daughter was so objectionable that he shot and killed the guy. And then Haley's reputation was soiled even further. So you're talking about what could drive you, Annie, to being a prostitute. Your family loses its farm. Maybe that's what drives you to become a whore. You're kidnapped by Indians for nearly 3 years. Again, that's a traumatic thing. You get back, you find a guy, you marry him, but then your dad comes and shoots him. But all 3 of those put together, she was destined to do stuff like this. So at the age of 14, she ran away, wound up in Abilene, Kansas, where she became a dance hall girl and a prostitute. She eventually got married, and she and her husband opened a brothel in Sweetwater, Texas, which Libby ran even after her husband's death. The couple had 2 sons, both of whom became career criminals, and 2 daughters who followed in mom's footsteps and became whores themselves. Libby was not embarrassed by her profession. And it was as a madam in Sweetwater that she became known for keeping her pet prairie dogs. These, along with the gap in her teeth, gave her the nickname Squirrel Tooth Alice. Her name was Libby.
Not the sexiest nickname, I'm going to be honest.
Not a good one.
No.
You talk about it, this being 1855, and it's almost 200 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they had TV. So why didn't you just move?
Go to the town next to you, and you're like, yeah, I'm good.
Or 5 towns over,
yeah,
where it's a little
you're good.
warmer, nobody knows you, and just give yourself a really good
Oh, but they'd recognize
backstory.
those prairie dogs in that gap tooth. They'd know old
Squirrel Tooth Alice. Yeah. By the way, it said that she banged Wyatt Earp. Cool.
Awesome.
And she lived to be 97.
Wow. So longevity comes from a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. I will tell you, just as a palate
lifestyle.
cleanser for a terrible nickname like Squirrel Tooth Alice, I was reading about this one woman. She's more modern day. Her name was Carol Leigh, Leigh. And she was a redhead who actually was the one who coined the term sex worker.
Wouldn't it be Lee?
Oh, Carol Leigh. I'm sorry.
Or you're saying Leigh? I thought you were saying Leigh as a joke.
Well, I call him Tom Leigh. He's the guy who works for us. Isn't that how
Right?
it's
Yeah.
sold?
I think that's how you'd spell his name.
Yeah. So, Lee Leigh, however you want to say it.
Well, for this, it makes sense to be Leigh.
Yeah, she was a redhead who coined the term sex worker. She was big on creating sort of rights for women who were in that trade. And since she was redhead, her nickname was the Scarlet Harlot. I like that.
I like that.
That's a good one. Squirrel Tooth Alice is fucking terrible. Give me the Scarlet Harlot. I don't know why I put this in there, but a little left turn. Puttanesca sauce, next time you're in a Italian restaurant, translates, so the Italian word for whore is puttana. So puttanesca sauce is called the sauce of the whores. They say the PG version is that it's a quick sauce to make, so whores were able to make it for their johns or for themselves in between gigs. And since it was so quick and easy, they named it after it. But I think the real reason that it's called puttanesca is because it's made with stuff like olives, capers, and particularly anchovies, which kind of have that smell of a dirty
girl
woman.
smell.
Yeah. Let's do a couple of famous whores.
John's visibly disgusted over there.
Famous whores or whore adjacent people from history. Anyone know anything about the Mata Hari? Like, the Mata Hari has been around for a while. She was a double agent during World War I. I had just seen that movie, The King's Man. Do you remember that? It's like the prequel to it all. It was with the guy who's in Red Dragon. Who's the fucking guy?
Oh, Ray Fiennes?
Ray Fiennes. So you know, like the Kingsman with Eggsy and all that shit and all that? So they had a prequel one called The King's Man, which I enjoyed tremendously. I don't think it got very good reviews.
The third one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, some
I
cool
loved it.
scenes in that one.
Yeah.
And if you're a history fan, it's great.
I think it's cool because they see like the Archduke, you know.
Is that the Rasputin one?
Yeah, Rasputin. No. Yeah, it was
Yes,
the Rasputin one,
yep,
100%.
yeah.
But do you remember when they're sitting around the table and there's all these people around the table? They were given like cyanide rings. And Rasputin's was like the bear, and some guy was complaining because his was like the beaver. There was a woman at the table, and it was the Mata Hari. So they she does pop up every now and again, and I've known about her forever. But the thing is, her name was Margaret Gertrude MacLeod, better known as her stage name Mata Hari. She was a Dutch exotic dancer and courtesan who was convicted of being a spy for Germany during World War I. She was actually a double agent. She was a spy for both Germany and France. Unconfirmed, by the way. People don't know if she was railroaded, scapegoated, or whatever, but I'm just saying what the headline on her always is. She was executed by firing squad in France in 1917 at the age of 41. I put a picture of her in there. She wasn't like an overly handsome woman. I mean, she's not an ugly woman by any stretch of the imagination, but people describe her as being like hypnotic. Like she's just a hypnotic young lady. And she wore these like bejeweled bras and whatnot. And so she was extremely, extremely popular.
She had aura, as the kids would say.
Yeah, she was aura farming a lot back in that
Her
day.
torso is little, but her arms are strong.
Yeah.
Right? She must have pulled herself up a lot.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right?
I
She's
mentioned
little.
above she died in front of a French firing squad. Her last words were, "I am ready." She refused the blindfold, and she blew a kiss to the soldiers right before they opened fire. Again, these are all those things that I casually kind of knew. But this is the part that I didn't know. Her body was never claimed by any relatives, and she was subsequently donated for medical study, and her head was removed. The Museum of Anatomy embalmed her head, and it was kept there until archivists realized over 80 years later in 2000 that it had disappeared. Nobody knows where the Mata Hari's head is. So our history of knowing that, what did somebody do? Didn't somebody eat like fucking Napoleon's dick?
Yeah, someone in New
Jersey. The guy in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, we talk about guys.
I don't know if he ate it, but I think he has it sitting like on his bookshelf somewhere.
Somebody
I'm
ate
gonna say
somebody's
he
fucking
ate it.
heart. Yeah, we'll go with that. But we know
Let's go
about
with the
these.
ate is-
We know about these underground collectors from all over the place. So I think that somewhere there's some fucking freak that might still be getting head.
Yes.
From a double agent, spy, burlesque dancer, courtesan who was executed over 100 years ago.
Evan
100 that's why
Latimer,
you
the
steal
daughter
it.
of urologist who acquired it. Let's see.
Yeah, urologist in like fucking Fort Lee, right? Like
Yeah, but I don't
Palisades.
him. He
Stop.
ate it. Somebody ate it. Did someone eat it?
I think so. I'm moving on though. So Matahari is one of them. The second one is
Oh.
Ching Shi, a.k.a. Zheng Yi Sao. And this is from the early 1800s. Originally a prostitute who worked on a floating brothel. She married a pirate who fell overboard during a storm and died about 6 or 7 years after they wed. So she ended up commanding his fleet of nearly 2,000 ships. 2,000 ships in the early 1800s meant that she, this former whore, was in charge of about 80,000 men battling the Portuguese Empire, the British Empire, and the Qing dynasty at various stages. She was a stud. Her favorite method of dealing with rival crews and enemies was to nail their feet to the decks of their own ships and then beat them to death unless they agreed to join her ranks and become part of the Red Flag fleet.
Did we do badass bitches of her?
She was on it.
She was on it, yeah.
She was on it. She
was
was
a good
on it
episode.
along with Fling Throw Through, the one who had the gigantic tits
Yep.
that she could throw and
7 of
tie
them?
around her fucking neck. Yeah.
That was a good episode.
Yeah. A year after her husband's death, she married her adopted son.
Oh, like Woody
Kind of
Allen.
Woody Allen, yeah.
As you do.
She had 2 children with him and then died a free woman at the age of 69.
If he was a teaspoon of cum, what is she?
I don't know.
Well, we gotta go. with
You know
that
what?
one.
I wouldn't call her anything because she had a pretty tough life, right? I mean, she was basically on a floating brothel since she was 12.
I just mean, what's the
and then married
equivalent
a
for
fucking
Woody Allen's
pirate.
term?
Yeah. Well, I could tell you what. I give her a break because this happened in the 1800s. Woody Allen's married to
Different
his,
times.
yeah. There's another famous whore. Her name was Phryne, Phryne. I asked how to pronounce it, and that's what it came up with. She was a 4th century Greek courtesan known for her beauty. She grew up poor, but became one of the richest women in Greece. As a matter of fact, I think Greece was attacked by like an army. I read this little anecdote where they destroyed the walls around the city, and she was like, I'll pay for them. I'll pay to put them back up. Like, you know, like this. She was like, the only thing is you have to put on the wall. This wall was restored by a courtesan named Phryne or whatever the hell it is. I put a picture of her, not a picture, but a painting of the scene that I'm about to describe now because it's the only reason I'm mentioning her. According to an account, she was on trial for impiety. Impiety means something that you're doing against God. So I'm going to put it in the realm of like almost like blasphemy. So she's on trial for it, and her defense attorney had her disrobe in court. She was then acquitted on the argument that a body so perfect could not conceal an ugly soul, and she got off scot-free. And this painting, that's a fucking
What a
painting.
lawyer.
Yeah, what a great lawyer. But that's a painting.
Yeah.
Like you talk to me about modern art and all this stuff. I tell you the story about this, and if you look up the painting of Phryne, and there is a stunning red robes in the background with a lawyer like ripping the vestments off this very alabaster skinned woman, and these guys just the faces in the background. I don't know. It just seems like one of those parts of history I think everyone should know about. She got off because she was hot as balls.
The guys in the background are so horned up.
Oh,
Like, they can't believe how horned up they're getting.
Yeah, all those robes got real tight.
Yeah.
I said I was going to mention Victor Hugo earlier in the show. I'm mentioning him now. If you don't know who Victor Hugo is, you should slap your teacher. So he was a French romantic author, and he eventually became a politician. Very, very interesting life. Was in exile for a while. Could probably do a whole episode on Victor Hugo. But just know that his most famous works are the novel The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame, and Les Mis. He wrote Les Miserables. He has a great quote. To love another person is to see the face of God. Oh, what's up, sweetheart? How are you? And he was a coxman. He had multiple mistresses, and he went with multiple courtesans. When he died in 1885 at the age of 83, he wanted a beggar's funeral. He'd put in that he wanted a beggar's funeral, but the president of France said, nope, we're giving this guy a state funeral. He deserves it. So more than 2 million people, this is 1885, more than 2 million people joined Hugo's funeral procession in Paris from the Arc de Triomphe to the Pantheon where he was buried. And we know the Pantheon is that place where a lot of French heroes are buried because we'd mentioned in the Marie Curie thing, they took up her body. They had to make a lead-lined coffin because 65 years later, she was still fucking glowing. So a bunch of French heroes are buried there, including Victor Hugo. So 2 million people joined in his funeral procession. And most importantly, according to writers, they were brothers, Edmond and Jules Goncourt. The night before his funeral, there was a public orgy consisting of all the brothel women on holiday who fucked anyone on the lawns of the Champs-Élysées. And then the following day, when it was his funeral, Parisian brothels were closed for a day to mourn his passing.
Oh, that's where we got engaged.
Yeah, exactly. We got engaged where they had a big sex orgy.
I wish we would have known. That's so up our alley.
And again, like I'm sort of mentioning, like the Berkeley table, the like all these little awards or recognitions that are given out to guys and gals who love to get a little bit freaky. There's a stat that 20% of all women in the 1700s in London were prostitutes. 20%, so 1 in 5 were hookers. That stat is not factual, but it goes around everywhere. But whoring was a viable option for many women at the time, considering that other than like sewing or cleaning or becoming a trad wife, women weren't really allowed to work. Not to mention, you had an excellent madam back at that time. You could have a pretty good working conditions and pay. I say an excellent madam because back in the 1700s, people who owned brothels were smart enough to put women in charge. It wasn't until much later on did we get that pimp culture where it was like, get out there and sell your ass or I'm going to break your neck. Like back then, madams who also sometimes were nasty-ass bitches themselves, but it was a better business thing to have a woman in charge of brothels. It was a little ahead of their time.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Prostitution was so rampant in London back then.
But I got to stop you there because I think a big part of it is that they can't seduce the woman.
What's that? Oh, that they can't get high in their own supply.
Correct.
Okay. I could definitely see that too. Prostitution was so rampant in London in the same way that like every town in the United States probably has like a Maple Avenue or Maple Street if it's like lined with maple trees. There were so many towns in London that had streets that were on the same blocks as brothels. So there were a bunch of grope cunt lanes and fucking groves and whore streets. And so if you're in London and you see anything that has grape in the name, like they changed it to like Grape Count Lane, that was originally Grope Cunt. And there's no fucking gray area there.
Right.
If you name something Grope Cunt.
Unless she's over 60.
Yeah, it's just, and they even had like a Zagat's. They had like a Michelin or a Zagat's guide to whores in England called the Harris List. It was a catalog from the 1700s of all prostitutes in London during that period.
I've
where you
heard
could
of
find any sex worker's address, price, age, and skills, and it would rate their performances and describe their appearance. It was published annually for decades.
I want the one with the gap tooth.
I will tell you, if you go to Harris List, and you can't do it now, but if you start to read some of the reviews, it was written in that old English to where it was very, very poetic. It was kind of cool to read. Staying in the UK, the oldest known whore was Sheila Vogel Coop from Great Britain. She started her career recently. She started her career in 2010. So she started at the age of 81. So she didn't take her first dick for money until she was 81 years old. After
that we know of. That's been documented.
Can I look at? Is this a picture of her?
That's a picture of her. Now I want you to take a closer look at the picture. You see the pantyhose?
Oh, I see.
That's where it's hoary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't know. So this woman, Sheila Vogel Coop, when she was 81, she was somehow convinced, obviously through money, to be in a porn called Freddie's Great British Granny Bang. Ugh. By 2014, she was entertaining up to 10 clients per week at 250 pounds per hour. Yeah, right? So her granddaughter, Katie Waisel, was a singer-songwriter. She appeared as a contestant on Celebrity Big Brother. And in an argument with a fellow housemate, Katie said on live TV, "I know I'm better than you. You're an embarrassment. My grandma's more famous than you, and she sucks dick." Oof. Sheila continued to work until she was 91. So this woman was until she was 90 fucking
What do you think the age range of her clientele is?
I got to imagine it had to be guys 50 and older.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely no 20-year-olds.
Yeah,
I think there's some kinks that are being worked out there. I think they're all kinks being worked out.
I know for a fact it's called lemon porn. So don't Google it. But lemon porn is porn that involves like old people. Somebody had me Google it once.
E-Bombs World.
Check this. Yeah, E-Bombs World.
Growing up, that was,
yeah.
I did not make you do that.
So when she was 91, she finally decided to, this is what I wrote, to retire that old blown out elephant trunk amid the pandemic. So what was a victim of the pandemic? Echo, best veal chop in the city, did make it through.
A
lot of people.
If they have their picture still. They had like your favorite picture of, what was her name?
It was Chris Alberti. Oh, no.
Lauren Hutton?
Lauren Hutton, yeah. She had the gap tooth. But that was great. She'll continue work till she was 91, and then she stopped during the pandemic. And if you see that picture that I put in of her, she actually has a nice set of stems.
You know how much Sheila Vogel Coop charged an hour?
$250. 250 pounds. I just said it.
I know. Is that, pounds? $420 in American dollars.
Maybe that's
I think the pound is,
Is that what it
more
comes
than
out
the
to?
dollar right now.
I thought yours was a
250
little
quid,
low.
though, is a lot. I covered Nazis. I covered Japanese. So we have to cover serial killers. But first, can a home security system really call itself security if it only responds once somebody is already inside? Simply Safe is different because it can stop crimes before it happens. AI-powered cameras detect threats while they're still outside your home and alert real security agents. This is a game changer. The agents take action while the intruder is still outside. They confront the intruder, let him know that they're being watched on camera and that police are on the way, and even sounding a loud siren and triggering a spotlight if needed. This is how you stop a crime before it starts. That's real security. Other systems have cameras that let you talk to intruders, but they require you to see the alert yourself. Simply Safe's monitoring agents have your back and talk to intruders even if they aren't there. So, we mentioned this once before, not you getting bit by the dog, but we recently had some kids that were cutting through our backyard in order to get to school. That's how we found out about it, through our Simply Safe thing. They didn't call the police or anything like that, but we were able to scare the shit out of them for absolutely no reason. And then I apologized to the parents and said they could use this as a thoroughfare anytime they want. So right now, my listeners can save 50, half a hundred. You can save 50% on a Simply Safe home security system at simplysafe.com/twisted. That's simplysafe.com/twisted. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, so it's a lot easier to find a list of serial killers who preyed on prostitutes than it is to find prostitutes who are also serial killers. And it makes sense. If you're a serial killer, what's the lowest hanging fruit for you to go after?
Prostitutes, homeless people.
Yeah, they're forgotten. Like nobody fucking, looks for
orphans.
Them. Yeah, orphans. These are all great. That's weird that you know that better.
I know. I know where to look.
So, I told you about Vibsy.
If you look at all our big serial killers, they're almost always killing hookers. But to see the other side around, there are more than a handful of them, but you got to dig a little bit. The first one that leaps to mind, and I think everyone will be recognized, would be Aileen Wuornos, just because Charlize Theron played her in the 2003 movie Monster.
Crushed it.
Yeah,
she really did.
Did she get an Academy Award for that?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh wait, I'm gonna take a left turn right here. We just watched the new Scorsese documentary, 5 parts on Netflix. I think it's called Becoming Scorsese.
I think it's Mr.
Good?
Scorsese,
Yes,
right?
Mr. Scorsese might be. I recommend it.
Okay.
Especially if you like Scorsese movies, but maybe you don't know all of them. Like, we watched part of it with Bridget, and Bridget's like, is Cape Fear too scary? Can I watch it? I'm like, you should watch Cape Fear. I think Annie was like, I never saw Mean Streets. I'm like, oh, let's watch Mean Streets. Let's go and revisit Taxi Driver. Let's go watch Raging Bull. And on top of it, getting through to the point where they start talking about Wolf of Wall Street. That episode probably isn't kid-friendly because they go into a lot of shit
that
with
was a rough one with Bridget Brown. But I will say, Rebecca Miller, the woman that did the documentary, I think, singled hers out over all other documentaries. She allowed him to speak the entire time.
Yeah, and even if you don't
that was brilliant.
Scorsese captivating. Like Martin Scorsese has always been like a little Weasley, annoying guy. I think his work is better. Like he's probably better not doing press. I feel that way about a lot of people.
Most directors.
Yeah,
like they're nerds.
So. Yeah.
They're nerds.
And so, like, he was talking in terms of where he grew up and stuff. Like, he was the only fucking person that grew up in and around organized crime, and that obviously was just not true. So it was still very, very, I don't know, worthwhile. I think it was very, very worthwhile. If you're a Scorsese fan, if you don't know anything about Martin Scorsese, you probably won't resonate with you. But even the most casual Scorsese fan to a Scorsese freak, which I think I consider myself because my favorite director, I think it's worthwhile. Watch it.
Okay. On a scale of Shrek Happily Forever After to Shrek 1, where would you rank it?
I thought it was extremely well done.
Yeah.
Everybody had an opinion, but she gave him the voice. And I think I thought it was, everybody else was kind of quiet in the back. Like, she really put him front and center, and you don't get that often.
And also his editor got a lot of shine, and she did a very good job. They bring his daughters in and stuff like that, because he was married 5 times. And then I'm not going to give anything else away, but not that there's any spoilers, but they do a thing with just him and De Niro and how that had, sort of turned into that dynamic duo, and how the torch was almost passed to Leo from De Niro with Gangs of New York, and then.
Have you seen the show The Studio? On I think it's.
Oh,
on
that's
HBO.
with.
It just won a ton of awards. It's with Seth
Rogen. Yeah,
it's very good. Martin Scorsese's in like the first episode, and he has a good little part.
Is it good?
Yeah,
I had mentioned it to you 6 episodes ago.
Rave reviews too,
summer,
right?
Yeah.
It's
great. It's great.
Am I gonna get like if I'm a guy who doesn't like Seth Rogen, like that kind of gets me
I think
after a
you'd
while.
still like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to like the inside.
It is an insider thing.
The inside baseball of Hollywood,
Okay. Yeah. I'll watch that if you watch Veep.
I'll watch Veep.
Okay.
Yes. I think I tried to watch the first episode, and then my internet cut out, and I was like, well, I'm never watching that.
Yeah, she was very good in that. The cast was very, very good.
Oh, I think because there's a funny joke about the Jones massacre.
Oh, really?
Oh, the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. So that's a whole thing in the show, and it's very funny.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't want to say more. But
Right.
Yeah, we're buried in the lead. So anyway, watch Veep, watch Studio, watch the.
And they get Scorsese to direct it, right? The Kool-Aid movie.
Yeah, he's in the scene and everything.
Yeah.
Really? All right, gotta watch it then.
It's good. It's good.
So hookers who are also serial killers. Aileen Wuornos, she murdered 7 of her male clients between 1989 and 1990 while working as a street prostitute in Florida. So she claims she acted in self-defense, alleging that the men either raped her or attempted to rape her. She was convicted and executed in 2002 after spending more than 10 years on Florida's death row. Those are the facts. 7 of her male clients said it was self-defense, still got convicted, and given a lethal injection in 2002. This is how she got there, though. We talked about daddy issues. She never met her father, a guy named Leo Pittman, who was sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping and raping a 7-year-old girl. So you see, like, she didn't come from good stock.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Leo, father, was a diagnosed schizophrenic, committed suicide by hanging in prison on January 30th of 1969. Mommy issues. Her mom abandoned her and her brother when Aileen was only 4, so she was raised by her alcoholic grandparents. Her grandfather assaulted her both physically and sexually, and at one point, Aileen had a sexual relationship with her brother. She eventually got pregnant after being raped by one of her grandfather's friends, and she gave up the kid for adoption. Isn't it setting the fucking table for a perfect... I mean, I don't know. I don't remember Monster.
Perfect cocktail of trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
And for people who do remember Monster, perhaps this was really deep dove into in the movie, but I don't remember it, right?
No.
After her grandmother died of liver failure, this is all by the time she was 15. Her grandfather threw her out of the house... So she was living in the woods near her old home. She dropped out of school and supported herself through prostitution. And between the ages of 14 and 22, she attempted suicide 6 times. So that's the origin story, which led her to murder 7 men in 12 months. All the men were motorists between the ages of 40 and 65. Meaning it was one of those things where they were cruising for prostitutes.
Little lot lizard.
Yeah. Out of the 7, her first victim was shot several times. 2 bullets to the left lung were the cause of his death. The second had been shot 6 times. The third had been shot 9 times. The body was then wrapped in an electric blanket and was badly decomposing when it was found. The fourth body was never found. The fifth had only been shot twice. The sixth was a former chief of police who had been shot 7 times in the head and torso, and her seventh and final victim had been shot 4 times. So she liked to put a lot of lead in her fucking victims. She almost got off on an insanity plea. That's her, her lawyers were doing it, but she was like, nope. And in a petition in 2001 to the Florida Supreme Court, she stated her intention to dismiss her legal counsel and terminate all pending appeals. This is her quote. I killed those men, robbed them as cold as ice, and I do it again too. There's no chance in keeping me alive or anything because I'd kill again. I have hate crawling through my system. I'm so sick of hearing that she's crazy. I've been evaluated so many times. I'm competent. I'm sane, and I'm trying to tell the truth. I'm one who seriously hates human life and would kill again. She did that in 2001. Less than a year later, she was dead by lethal injection on October 9th, 2002. You know what? I don't know again if the movie made it out to be, but that's almost not heroic, but admirable. That she was like, bullshit.
Being honest about it.
Yeah. You're not going to fix me. I want to kill everybody I'm fucking talking to right now. And she has good reason, right? From her dad all the way down to her fucking grandfather. So anyway, then she was dead in 2002. So Wuornos is pretty close to being a household name because of the movie. But this next quartet is not. But I included them because the Guinness Book of World Records, which was the coveted thing at every book fair growing up.
Yep.
Yeah. They have this quartet, they were sisters, as the most prolific murder partnership in history, and they were just a couple of deadly Mexican whores. Las Poquianchis. Poquianchis doesn't have a literal translation, but they were called Las Poquianchis. They're also known as the Poquianchis sisters. Their names were Maria Delfina Gonzalez Valenzuela, Maria del Carmen Gonzalez Valenzuela, Maria Luisa, and Maria de Jesus Gonzalez Valenzuela. By the way, I just butchered those fucking 4 names. My point is that there were 4 sisters. They were all named Maria, and they had different middle names, so that's how they were called Delfina or Carmen or Luisa or whatever. But they operated a prostitution ring in Mexico from 1950 to 1964. Outside of those fucking annoying names, they didn't have an awful upbringing that Wuornos had. Their dad was a cop in Jalisco, and he was a strict man who expected his daughters to not wear makeup or interact with boys. If they broke his rules, he'd lock them up in a cell at the police station. All right, that's strict. It's nothing compared to what Aileen went through, right?
No.
But when the sisters got older, they opened up a bar together. And the bar was not a success. They were bleeding money. So they were forced to turn to a prostitution operating out of the bar, and that business was fucking booming. Yeah, they did pretty well with
that'll
that.
do it.
Yeah. Eventually, police officers searched the sisters' property on grounds of human trafficking and found the bodies. And this is where I'm telling you why I included them. I brought in Aileen because she killed 7 people, right? And we talk about how these cops came in. They found the bodies of 80 women, 11 men, and several fetuses.
Aileen had a code.
Yeah,
These women did not.
Yeah. Investigators revealed that the sisters' criminal operation recruited prostitutes through deceptive help wanted ads for housemaids, and then many of the girls were force-fed heroin and or cocaine. The sisters killed the prostitutes when they became too ill, damaged by repeated sexual activity, lost their looks, or just stopped pleasing customers. They would also kill customers who showed up with large amounts of cash. In all, the sisters were responsible for the murders of at least 91 people, though the actual number could be as high as 200. Tried in 1964, the Gonzalez sisters were each sentenced to only 40 years in prison, and only one, Maria de Jesus, served out her sentence and then disappeared from public sight. That's why I included these girls, because it could have went through a bunch of other ones, but that is prolific. If you look at a list of Mexican serial killers, and by the way, Wikipedia has that. Like, Wikipedia is crazy. Like, you go in there, list of Mexican serial killers, they'll give you every fucking one of them. Not a one, man or woman, duo, quartet, trio, whatever, comes close to these girls as far as killing a lot of people. I'm sure there's cartel members with a lot more blood on their hands. But for Mexican serial killers, these are the top of the food chain. Go ahead, John.
This is terrible, but I had the impression going, could I see this list, please? This is a alleged list. I'd like to see it.
That's John's Trump. I like that. All right, we'll close out with 2 more horrors in memory of a female performer from a bachelor party back in my day, Sexy Selena. Does anyone remember?
Why do you look right at me?
Do you remember Sexy?
Was it my booth that had her first?
Yeah.
Talking about Selena?
Sexy Selena. No, Sexy Selena. So she was a. She was a. Do you remember her?
I don't know any.
She might have been a New York phenomenon. Please, if anyone's
John
listening
on this one.
If anyone listening knows,
She was the Wall
Selena.
Street. She
yeah.
was.
Oh, you're talking about the Mexican singer who got shot? My friend.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Famously
Also
portrayed by J-Lo.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that she was number one as far as popular Selenas. But in certain parts of New York City, there was a stripper that you were able to rent. Her name was Sexy Selena, and she was the one who shot ping pong balls. And then you would hit them with a fucking wiffle ball bat.
That's cool.
People have done that since then.
Yeah.
But Sexy Selena, as far as I thought, she was a real groundbreaker. All right? But so sticking in that kind of vein, like I remember they used to put out like a tarp, and she would shoot fucking ping pong balls, and guys would stand there.
I left when she came in.
It's fucking crazy.
Clearly, you stayed.
I never stayed. I never saw her live yet. But, everyone knew about her.
That's
Or
unfortunate.
you see, like, fucking weird, grainy pictures of her. It's
The
fucking
H.
bad.
What was the one? What was the bar that was on there? There was 2 the same, but one was on Greenwich Street. Was it the Atrium? There was 2. Like, one was like the church, and one was the. I can't think of the name of the other one. That's the one where she used to come,
Yeah.
and I would be like, "All right."
The church was Moran's. Moran's the church, right? Wasn't
There
it?
was, so that was, and then the one
Wasn't
next
there-
to it was like it was like a
Like a Pussycat Lounge?
I guess that's what it was.
Wasn't there a girl who could blow out candles with her?
Yeah.
Possibly.
A bunch of them. We spoke about that, too, when we
Wouldn't
did
surprise
prostitution.
me.
We talked about the string shows.
Very
where the girl would
talented.
put the spool of string up there.
Yes, I remember that one.
Or, and then she would have you hold the end of the string.
Yes,
And she would
gladly.
slowly back away from you as it was feeding out from her
go
vagina.
around the room.
She'd go around the room and like walk around tables and cover them a couple times because she had
was
thousands
covering
of
them all
yards
right.
of string up there.
I don't know what she was covering them with, but
So
she was
by the
covering them.
end of the show, the place would look like this fucking funky ass spider web.
Yeah, like a spider spinning its web. I love that.
Yeah. So we'll mention 2 of those just to lighten it up on the way out. First one's name is Pris Frothington. It's a great name. She was in the mid-1600s London. She was a prostitute who made a name for herself through the long-forgotten novelty sex act called chucking, which I never heard of. She would stand on her head naked, legs akimbo, what a great word, so legs akimbo, and onlookers would chuck coins into what she referred to as her commodity, which was her love purse. And according to legend, she could fit 16 half crowns.
It's true. God bless you.
Excuse me, that was tough.
That was powerful.
Chucking always does that to me. So she could fit 16 half crowns up inside of her. Pris Frothington was in the mid-1600s, rest in peace. But the second one is much more recent, having died in only 2023.
Do we know how old she was?
Her name is Sticky Vicky. I like that. Her real name was Victoria Maria Aragues Gadea. Known professionally as Sticky Vicky, she was a Spanish ballet dancer and illusionist known for her vaginal magic show.
Oh.
During her show, she would pull out ping pong balls,
She died at
razor
80.
blades, eggs, handkerchiefs, and machetes from her private parts. Her closer would end with the lights dimming, and then she would pull out a lit light bulb.
Wow.
God bless her.
Go
Her
Vicky.
career spanned almost 50 years, with her final performance taking place in autumn of 2015. It was estimated that 6 million people saw Sticky Vicky as she performed 6 times a day at a Spanish vacation town called Benidorm, which kind of resembles a Spanish version of Myrtle Beach from what I can see, but maybe it's much better. But either way, that was just a twisted history of whores. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and give a big rest in peace to probably Sexy Selena, definitely Pris Frothington, certainly Sticky Vicky.
Shout out vaginal magic shows.
Vaginal
Right?
magic shows. Let's bring those back.
And they certainly brought in the cash.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
They
6
did
million
well.
people. That's
Like we mentioned Sticky Vicky here. Like I mentioned Sexy Selena, and it would make. I don't mean to mention
She
my
would
brothers
shoot
again.
eggs too, right?
Yeah, eggs. but my older brother and I would, and the people that we hung out with would all be like, oh, we've heard of her. Not that anyone's all been to their show or her show or anything, but you at least heard of her.
Word gets around when 6 million people are seeing it.
If 6 million people witnessed it, that means 160 million people have heard of it, because when I see somebody pull a light bulb out of her, Zach, it's one of those things where I tell 20 friends.
Absolutely.
So I think that in certain, and it's so recent, right? She just died in 2023. It's so recent that I'm sure that in certain towns of Spain, this woman is an absolute fucking legend. So
just out of curiosity, how big is a 16 half crown?
I don't know. I would think it's got to be at least $50, right? And I think it's heavy.
One?
I think it's heavy.
The big thick one.
Yeah. And the thing is, like throwing it,
I wonder if you
like
could
it's
hear
almost
another
like
one in there when it hits.
Yeah, or if it's a bloop.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming she was kind of cavernous, because otherwise, what are you trying to throw at? I barely am able to get into the bucket on the way out of fucking Stu Leonard's. I can't imagine I'd have.
Like everybody, like you always try to get the napkin in the garbage can. Like,
yeah, that's exactly it.
And you always give me one of these. Move out of the way.
That's a vaginal one, though. All right, so that's it for the Twisted History of Horse. We appreciate you guys. Next month, we might still have a very important guest coming in.
Yeah.
Right? Is that still on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kenny,
I can't wait.
I'm going to call him Kenny. Kenny Burns is going to
KB.
come in, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time on Twisted History.